So I had the privilege of being part of a project last semester. It was done through Association of Engineering Educators, and we did what we call a virtual community program, and we were just kind of immersed in all kinds of stuff and dealing with it, you know, classrooms and students and whatnot, and we were given homework. And, you know, read this article, and then how do you take that and bring it into your classroom and everything. And so I was, you know, it was very interesting to me because I was getting to talk with about a dozen educators from all over the United States, you know, and had the pleasure of talking to the ones that were up north and, you know, 8 feet of snow and stuff, and say, oh yeah, down here in Texas, so it's kind of chilly, it's about 70 today, you know. But it was really neat, and one of the things that they gave us was this paper. And I thought, you know, it just was a time when, you know, the semester was busy and everything, and I'm like, yeah, I'll try to get to it. But when I started reading it, it really hit me, and I was like, you know what, it's so true. And we had the prime example, you know, where, you know, the environment of the classroom was such, almost purposely such that, you know, just shut up there and just listen to me. You know, we don't want to have your interaction and stuff. Of course, now things have changed more and more. You know, people are realizing to be able to retain the knowledge that you're imparting and stuff, you've got to get them engaged, you've got to get them interacting and stuff. So in this, they talked about the physical surroundings, and I always say, you know, LeTourneau is very biblical in their climate of the actual temperature in a room. It's either hot or cold. LeTourneau doesn't believe in between, you know, so you kind of got to, you know, deal with that. The emotional conditions of the classroom and stuff. You know, again, I'll go back to his example. I mean, if you have somebody that's that antagonistic and everything, emotionally, you're like, oh crud, I gotta go to that class. You know, what's he gonna do to me today? You know, can I hide out and stuff? And the other one is the social conditions, and that's the one that I actually wanna kind of talk about. In that I got to, after I read this paper, we had to pick a class that we're teaching to try everything out on it. And I told them ahead of time, I said, you're all going to be my guinea pigs. You know, I'm taking this class. You all got to cooperate so that I look good when I go back to talk with them and everything. But it really, I had a great group of students that they really gave me good feedback and everything on this, but I found out through a survey that I gave them about that this is really a big thing to the students. How am I perceived by my peers? How am I perceived by my instructor? You know, even how do I perceive myself? You know, do I have the confidence and stuff? Which I'm so thankful I got to follow Carl, because everything he's talking about is what is curtailed in this. So they broke it down into that there's 2 climates: a supportive climate and a defensive climate. Definitely we had the example of a defensive climate. And Carl gave us what really the supportive one is, to where, you know, there's that encouragement, there's that, you know, get up there and try. The only way you're gonna really fail the speech class is just to quit coming, you know. Get out there and step up and see what happens. So the supportive climate in this paper was brought out that, you know, it was safe to answer questions. You know, if I'm in a class and they ask a question and I answer it and I don't answer it right, and I get this very negative reaction, whether verbally or nonverbal, what are you going to do? You're going to shut up. I had a class, non-parametric statistics. And the professor that taught this class definitely did not do a supportive classroom. He got up one day and he asked this question, and so some of us were brave enough to try to answer it, and we were like totally off the deal. And he went into this rage, and he's like, no, 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 and he's screaming and yelling and everything. And he goes to the back of the classroom and sits down and he says, I'm not coming back up front till y'all start to learn something. And you know what happened? We didn't answer anything from that point on. You know, and it was definitely not a supportive classroom at all. But this is one thing that really inside, you know, we all can think of what a defensive classroom is, you know, and everything, but this is one of the things that really hit me, and it was just like, wow, you know, that's so true. When you have the show-offs in class, they're gonna answer the questions and show you and everybody else how smart they are. And they went into detail in this paper on how that just shuts down the climate of the classroom, because I can't compare to Daniel. You know, Daniel's so stinking smart, and he knows all the answers, and he's able to articulate it well, and I look like a dummy if I try to, you know, follow up with him. And so they shut up. And also, it gives the ones that are normally quiet an excuse to be quiet. Well, I don't have to say anything because Carl will answer anyway. You know, and so it really made the climate of the classroom interesting. So if technology will work for me. So I asked my students this. I said, based on the definition of a supportive and defensive classroom, and I said, would you say that LaTourneau has more classes that are supportive or defensive? And some said more supportive, which I think I would agree. I've had the privilege, I've sat in on Carl's class, and by the way, if you ever get your free and stuff, you will learn so much from the students. You know, I learned about lacrosse, I learned about bullying, I've learned about all kinds of stuff going and sitting there and stuff. So, you know, I would agree for the most part, but they brought out the show-off thing. When they said the class was defensive, they started talking about that. Oh, those people aren't controlled. And I just sit there and go think about and do something else. Some said they're a bit supportive, they're a bit defensive. They kind of went back and forth. I had one that said, I would say it's more defensive. Most of us were smart when we were in high school, but when we got here, and half the kids are geniuses, which, you know, well, that's debatable. Very strange, social, awkward geniuses, by the way. So most people I know don't talk a lot because they don't want to look stupid. And so, again, just kind of supported that aspect that, you know, in our classrooms, we have to be able to watch that. And to manage that can be kind of tough because you don't want to shut them down. You don't want to say, you know, Bob, let's other people talk, you know. Just, you know, basically shut up and let other people talk. You don't want to do that because you don't want to stifle them and stuff, but you don't want them to monopolize things and stuff. So the first two was out of the paper. The last one is mine. That to set the rules of the class, you know, say, you know, here's how we're going to do this. You know, we're going to limit your answering to one or two questions so that everybody gets a chance. We're going to do something in the class where we're going to maybe go around the room or whatever to be able to have things set up. And, and it's all about communication. I may get with Bob after class and say, Bob, I really appreciate the input that you give into the class. You're coming up with good points and everything, but I'm really having some trouble with some of the students that won't speak up. So if you could help me out by holding back a little bit, and if I'm not getting any feedback and stuff, I'll kind of give you the look like, okay, Bob, what do you say? And they respond well to that. They're like, oh, okay, you appreciate all my great knowledge that I've obtained and it can offer and stuff. And they work out pretty good with that. But the last one I think is probably the most important. And I truly believe this in the sense that, the Bible says, if any lack wisdom, ask of God and he will give it liberally. And I've lived this every day of my academic teaching career in praying for wisdom and stuff. How do I be able to encourage somebody that can really add to it, but they're not going to talk? And so in that, I think God has given me some interesting things to do. And again, kind of flips back to the communication. I might come and, say, after class, Brent, I know you got some stuff to offer, and I promise you, I'm not going to embarrass you. And so I'm just going to give you forewarning that next time I'm going to ask you a question. But rest assured, I'm not going to throw you to the wolves, throw you under the bus and everything. And it's really helped when God gives me that direction. It says, this is a person that needs a little encouragement, one-on-one kind of thing. Here's some of the things that they gave to make the environment safe. One of the things in the survey and stuff that they found was that if I actually call on you, then there can be, oh, they're just picking on me. They came up, it came time for this question and they knew I wouldn't know the answer. So, so if I say, so Kathy, what do you think about this? Then I'm picking on you. But they found that if you find ways to choose the students that they don't feel that you did it, it's just random. Now the author of the paper, what she does is she makes what she calls a trading card of each of the students. Their name, their major, and the picture. And she shuffles the cards all up and then picks a card, and that's who is gonna answer the questions. And the students, she said, love it because they know that she's not picking on them, and it's like, it's more not, am I going to get picked, but is Carl going to get picked, and everybody gets to look at him and stuff. Now, computer science, technology and stuff, I actually wrote just a little program that reads in all the students' names and randomly picks one of their names, and it comes up on the screen. And they love it. They love my pick a student time because, again, they're not looking so much looking for their name, they're looking for their friend's name. And like a name will come up and I'll go, oh, is Joe here? And they all take it so far, no, he's skipping, boy, he's in trouble. They just love it. But it comes up there and stuff, and I give pause for effect, but more to let them kind of, okay, what am I going to have to do? And I get to know my students enough, and again, it comes back to praying for wisdom, that I can ask a question that I feel that is appropriate that they could add to. And I have a lot of times where I'll say, so, you know, what do you think? And you get that blank stare, and I give them a little time to think and talk, kind of in their own mind and stuff. And if I get the blank stare too long, I say, I'll tell you what, you think on it, I'll come back to you. And it diffuses the thing. Then I've had where I've come back and said, so can you help us out? And they're like, I don't know. And I don't leave them hanging. I'll just go, well, let's get Daniel. Can you help them out? And so after I've done that a little bit, I've found that they get to where even my most timid students will start answering questions because they found that I'm not going to throw them under the bus. And if they answer wrong, I'll say, you know what? That is a good point. It's not what we're looking for quite here, but we're going to come back to that. Now, here's where I got to rely on God to make me remember to come back to it. So we'll deal with this question, and then I'll say, so let's come back to the point that Brent brought up. Let's talk about that. And so it really helps to set the manner. And then the way questions are asked, you know, so that I don't ever ask yes or no questions. Do you think speech class is important? Sure. Well, there's no communication in there and stuff. So I don't add that. I ask it so that they have to give some kind of verbal feedback and stuff. And then, but it's, you know, again, you're watching them, you're seeing if they're freaking out. I don't know about y'all, but I can almost tell if they really kind of know, or it's like total blank and, you know, I need to save them and stuff. But make it safe. Make it so that they're not defensive. They're not, you know, feeling that everybody's going to laugh at them and stuff. One of the earlier presentations, they did a poll, and I found that those are great ways to be able to help them out. There's a poll everywhere. You can do up to 30 students in there. They can do it through any kind of laptop, tablet, or through their phones. But one of the things that I did because of this project I was involved in is the very first day of CS1, where the students figure everybody in the classroom knows about programming but them. I ask them this question: would you say that you have no programming experience, a little programming experience, or a good share of programming experience? And they get to watch the little graph go up, and the no programming experience hits the ceiling, and maybe I'll get a couple in little, and I always get one that feel they have a lot. But it also lets you know, okay, God's probably somebody that's going to be that one that's going to be always wanting to answer the questions and everything. I got a couple that probably I'll be able to rely on, that if everybody kind of gets stumps, you know, they are going to be able to go in there and stuff. So that's a really good way. Also with Poll Everywhere in there, you can get them to actually not just pick A, B, or C. You can get them to actually give responses, and the responses pop up, but you don't know who did it. But you can pretty well guess, oh, you know, he wrote a book. Yeah, that's Daniel, you know, kind of thing. But it gives you to be able to look at the answer and then pick somebody else and say, what do you think of that? And that kind of gives them the catalyst, the primes the pump and stuff to get them to talking and everything. So to play off of Carl, I think getting them to be able to talk in class is so important. Because even with my CS majors who, you know, they're known to be geeks and everything, I preach to them all the time. Guess what? You are not going to be able to get to go sit in some cubicle, writing code all day and not have to talk to anybody. You're going to have to be able to present ideas, talk with others. The day of the Lone Ranger programmer is pretty well dead. You're working on a team and whatnot. And to get them to be able to feel comfortable in a peer setting, be able to present, talk about ideas, good, bad, and feel comfortable, I think is extremely important. I think it comes down to what happens in that classroom. If they had good experience and stuff, they're going to be more prone to be able to deal with the peers and stuff. If you want to get a copy of the paper, email me, Ken Rouse at LetU. So that was it. I got my. It was like 20 minutes. All right, I can rattle this all off in 20 minutes. There's so much more, but I thank you for your time, and it's lunchtime.
Thanks, Ken.